Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2026. I'm Clint. I guess this is a Runnin Thought podcast. Might as well be. There's a non-zero chance that my dogs are going to walk through here several times and probably make lots of noise, and also my family. My dogs have no chill. I just got through cleaning up pee off of the drum set behind me, where our little Jack Russell Chihuahua mix decided he would pee. I was playing earlier and I kept smelling something, and I guess every time I was kicking the bass drum, the waft of urine scent was kind of like coming up. Anyways, here we are, new year, new you. Hope everyone's doing well. So let's jump right in. I guess, I've already started this off complaining, but a thing that I saw the other day that kind of resonated with me was this. I was on Instagram and just scrolling. I've got a couple of business accounts on there that I post stuff to, and if you want to check them out, it's Tako Mojo Inc., I think is my handle for one, and the other one is Hula Honey Hive. So I'm digital marketing and web developer, and I help local Hawaiʻi businesses, manage their web presence and their SEO, digital marketing stuff. And then also on the side, because in Hawaii, if you don't know, you have to have a couple of jobs. Even if you've got a really, really good job, you have to have a couple of other really, really good jobs to make it work. And my other side job is I build beehives, and I do a little beekeeping on the side. Anyway, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah. Instagram. So I was on Instagram the other day, and I was looking through. I don't even know what it's called. I'd have to pull it up to be able to tell you. I'm so out of it when it comes to the social medias. Okay. So I guess just my feed is what I was on scrolling through, and I came across this old Japanese lady, elderly Japanese lady. She looked like she was probably Okinawan. I couldn't tell for sure. But she was talking about the concept of okagi-sama desu. And what that is, and I'm going to have to read this because obviously I don't have it memorized verbatim, but it's a Japanese phrase that means thanks to you or thankfully. And so what it is, it's kind of an expression that's used when you accomplish something. You're kind of throwing back praise on everybody that helped you get to that point, or everybody that helped you succeed in that endeavor. And so, a little bit more succinct and articulate definition is it's a common Japanese phrase meaning thanks to you or thankfully. It's used to show humble gratitude for somebody's help, support, or even just their concern, acknowledging that your good fortune or well-being is due to others' unseen influence or efforts, like being under the shadow of their support, often as a polite response to "How are you?" or "Congratulations." So hopefully that makes more sense. But yeah, so I saw that, and it, I liked it. The lady was talking about it in Japanese, which I could sort of understand, but not 100%. But it had the subtitles, so I was able to ink out the meaning, and that's something that I think I've always kind of felt personally. I don't know if it's just the my upbringing or what, but I've always kind of minimized my successes, especially as I've gotten older, and hindsight's 2020. You start to see through the lens of I guess, experience, or I don't want to say wisdom. I don't know if that's a good word to associate with myself, but like you start to see with a little bit different perspective, and you kind of remember things, and you think about people that were there that kind of helped you, and sometimes it's an epiphany, like, oh yeah, I see what so and so was doing. They were helping me all along, and so I think my whole life has pretty much been, um, from being in diapers all the way up to where I am now, and probably, someday being back in diapers. It's somebody else there, kind of helping shoulder the burden, or teach me the things that I don't know, and giving different perspectives and insight, and kind of helping to round out some of the areas where I'm not as efficient, or I don't know as much. So that really was a neat thing to see. So one of the examples that I always fall back on when I'm thinking of this type of concept, when I was really young, when I was about 15 or 16, right? So I had this job at a printing warehouse or a printing company, and it was like a third shift, I think. So I would go in like in the afternoon, like, I don't know, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock or something, and then would work until I think like 2 in the morning or something like that. 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, sometime early in the morning. So one night, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So I made friends with the managers and other people there. As much of a friend as you can possibly make as a 15 or 16-year-old working in a printing place. And, being young and not really impressionable, that doesn't really play into it, but wanting to impress everybody else. I had this 68 Plymouth Valiant, and we got out one morning, and my manager, we were always joking around and pulling pranks and doing things that we ought not be doing, just to try to get a laugh or shock each other. So I had this manager, and he drove a little Mazda Miata, and I had this Plymouth Valiant. And it was nice enough. It had sat in a barn for probably like 30 years or somewhere near that. And it was pristine. I had bought it for, I think, like $2,500, or maybe even less than that. It may have been like 1,200. But I had worked and saved, like all summer or whatever, in order to get this thing. And so I finally got it. And I'm at this printing company, probably like a mile and a half away from my parents' house where I live. And we get out in the parking lot, and I decide I'm going to do something crazy. So I get in this old Plymouth, and it had a slant six, which is just like it's an inline six cylinder engine, cast iron, like, heavy duty, like a tank. The things would run forever. I think later on, I passed it on to a friend, and the friend took it to a mechanic, and the mechanic diagnosed an issue that he was having, and said that like one of the cylinders was completely locked up. The piston was locked up. So the thing, actually, who knows how long it had been operating on 5 cylinders, but it could have been the whole time I had it. I don't know. At any rate, I had this car, and we're going out in the parking lot. We just got out. We're I guess tired, because even though we joked around and stuff, that place was not easy to work at. It was monotonous and cumbersome and repetitive. Just basically, you're putting glue onto these kind of backer boards, and then you're wrapping covers around them, like you're making little booklets with all of these different swatches of flooring material inside of them, and these would go to like showrooms and stuff for the salespeople to flip through and show people, or for customers to come in and look and see the different kind of variety of flooring that these places had. Anyways, and you would just do this over and over and over again, and there would always be somebody, my manager or somebody, walking around, the owner, and they would be monitoring, the speed, and so you're always expected to be working. And we'd have like these little 5-minute, 10-minute breaks or whatever, but I mean, it was just going for the entire time that we were there. So we were tired, we were sweaty usually when we got off, and I don't know why. I digress. I go back into my story. All you need to know is that we're exhausted. We go out in the parking lot, and I decide I'm going to show off. So I get in my Plymouth, and I'm going to do donuts in the gravel parking lot. Now, there was nobody in the parking lot, right? There was nothing around, no cars around or anything. It was just me, and I think my manager left at that point in time. So it wasn't like I was going to hit anyone. But what I didn't take into account for is my Plymouth didn't have, I guess, whatever kind of, I don't know if it's posi traction or if I was lacking a sway bar or what was going on. But I just floored that thing and started doing donuts in this parking lot, and I was getting a kick out of it. My manager was getting a kick out of it, and I lost control of my car. I mean, I had the pedal to the floor. I lost control of the car after I exited the donut and tried to straighten out and just drive straight. I think I ended up slamming into electric pole, and it just dented in like the whole side of my car, which it was a shame because I mean the thing was in the same condition that it was in 20, 30 years ago when it went into a barn. It had some patina, the paint was still all intact. There was not that much rust. The paint had kind of like powdered up from old age. But as far as like major body damage or anything like that, there was none. The chrome had pitted a little bit, but I mean, it wasn't like a Bel Air or anything. It wasn't that nice. It was an economy car from the late 60s, which was a bad era in in U.S. history for sure, economically and socially. So it wasn't like that great of a looking vehicle, but it was mine and it looked good enough, and it was pretty damn cool for that era. So anyway, I slammed this thing into the side of a phone pole, and I had to kind of limp it home. And it still drove fine. It was just the side of it was bashed in, and I had to limp it home. And I was kind of like halfway scared, halfway embarrassed. I paid for my insurance. I paid for the car. So it wasn't like my parents were out anything. There was no significant damage to the foam pole. I think my car, absorbed all the shock. But I limped this thing home. I left a note for my dad, blah, blah, blah. This is what happened in the best light possible. And I went to bed, woke up the next morning, and then I had to face the music. So one thing led to another. I guess I don't know if it was my dad that was resourceful or if it was just the neighbors across the street. They were kindred spirits anyway, but they were good friends with my parents, and they had a couple of kids that went to the same high school as me. Nice guys, couple brothers, and they had an uncle that owned a body shop, and I won't say his name. I don't know if it's a good idea do that per se. But yeah, so I guess I'll just call him Jay. So they had this Uncle Jay who had the body shop, and he was he kind of reminds me of, if you ever seen Jaws, the captain of the ship on Jaws. Kind of like a grizzled appearance. He was always working, but I mean, the guy was just a craftsman, fabricator, old style body man. Could do bondo, frame pulling, all kinds of welding, prep, paint. I mean, just all the way around. This guy could work miracles on cars, new and old. He had in his lot, he had an old International Scout that he was planning to restore. He had a Ram Charger that he had kind of resto modded. It wasn't like pristine restored, but I mean, it was nice. It was jacked up. It had the nice blue bass boat paint job with the flake in the paint and pinstripes, and a big I don't even know what size engine was in it, with the 4-barrel carburetor. And he was always working on that thing. But that, I can't remember if that was his primary vehicle or not. I think his primary, believe it or not, was a little red Volkswagen Fox, I think. Either a Volkswagen Fox or a Volkswagen Golf. I cannot remember. At any rate, this guy, I seen him restore and fix many different vehicles, like new makes and models, and very old, like, Camaros and Mercedes. So point being, I didn't know this guy. I'd never met him before in my life. But by hook or by crook, one way or the other, I ended up working for him in exchange for him fixing my car. And from the get-go, this was always going to be in my favor. There was no amount of work that I would have done for him at 15 years old that was ever going to compensate for the amount of fixing that we ended up doing on my car. But working for him was pretty interesting, because I got to see kind of, he was a conflicted person. He was a very good person, like very kind-hearted, but you could tell that he had his own like inner things going on. I think a lot of people are like that. People are dynamic, and they have a lot of different characteristics. There's nuance to everyone, but yeah. So for all his faults, he was a really good guy, and he taught me a lot about auto body and just prep work and all the different tools. And he was very patient. I wouldn't say incredibly patient, but he was a very patient person. Being 15 or 16, I kind of did sort of what I thought was a good job, and that wasn't always, like I was mentioning before. In hindsight, I kind of look back and I'm like, yeah, no, I see what he was saying now. But at the time, I just had blinders on. I was concerned about, girls and, rock music and, playing my guitar, going out with friends. I wasn't super concerned, really, even though it was for my own betterment and advantage to, I wasn't worried about sweeping his shop as much or cleaning up stuff or doing prep work. A lot of the things that he did that I ended up helping with, well, it was very tedious. Excuse me. it was very tedious and kind of backbreaking work. It's a lot of getting into tight niches with sandpaper or Scotch Brite, and just making sure that like every piece of a fender or an entire car is got some type of scuffed up to where the paint will stick on it. And there's no fingerprints and everything. It's very detailed work, but yeah. So he was patient with me when I worked with him, and sorry, I'm trying to play with these camera angles a little bit to make it more interesting. I'm experimenting while I'm doing this. But so I worked for this guy for, I don't know, like probably maybe like 1 or 2 summers, and throughout the year, kind of like off and on, because I would play soccer. I played on the school team, and then we had kind of a crew that would do indoor during the winter. So we would go to this place called Camp Jordan, and they had a big indoor, and it may still be there, I'm sure it is. They had a big indoor facility, and that was super cool. But we also played fall league together. So it was pretty much the same people from the school team. My career kind of ended once high school was done, or actually even before high school was done, because I had to, kind of lean into working more towards the end of school. That's a different story for another day. But yeah, so I worked for this guy for a couple of summers, Jay, and I would always get invited to like his family's events, for like the holidays or whatever. And then sometimes we would go to help his parents because they were elderly, and they would usually have some stuff they needed fixing like around their house or whatever. They had an RV that they like to take out on trips, and we would do like little jobs on that sometimes. But like I would get invited to hang out with these folks, and by all accounts, this was a really great family, and just some people that were neighbors, but kind of treated me like family. And so that was life in a small town, right? And they had no like incentive or anything. I had really nothing to offer them, but they kind of helped me out of a bad situation for myself, and then also just gave me some positive role modeling. I think looking back, I would aspire to be more like them. But yeah, so I worked for Jay, and then we finally did redo my car, and we got it. It had forever. It had we kind of temporarily fixed it at first. I got some old doors from a junkyard, and so the car was white when I got it. It was white all the way around, and the inside was like a blue interior. It had I think it had no seat belts or no shoulder straps. You just had the lap belts, I believe, or maybe it had separate lap and shoulder belts. I cannot remember, but it was funky one way or another. But yeah. Anyways, it was white when I got it, and then when I wrecked it, we had to so that I could drive it, before we got really detailed and painted it and stuff like that. I had to we had to pull the frame out and get it all lined up again. And then I got some doors from a junkyard, and I think one of them was brown. And I think I did end up having like one white door. But for the longest time, I just drove around in this car with like all white all the way around except for one brown door. So yeah, we managed to fix it up. If I get a chance, I'll try to edit some photos and stuff into this video. But yeah, we fixed it up. We painted the outside. I'm trying to think. We redid the interior. So like kind of piecemeal. I was getting things. There used to be this catalog called J.C. Whitney, and it may still exist, but I used to order things out of JC Whitney, and I can't remember how we ordered things back then. There wasn't it. We didn't really have internet ordering going on so much. This was pre 99, so this was like 1996, 1997. So the internet was still kind of early days as far as like home use. And you could order stuff online, but it was still very it was unknown. You didn't trust putting credit card information. I didn't even have a credit card to begin with back then. But if I did, it'd be kind of dicey putting that information onto the internet. It wasn't, as commonplace as it is now. But anyway, I would order these things like carpet for the insides or seat covers. I had like the bench seats in the front and back, so it kind of looked like both trucks and cars that era and before. A lot of them just had these bench seats where it was just kind of like an L shape all the way across. It looked like kind of like an ice cream sandwich for a backrest, and then the same thing for the part that you sat on. But I ordered the seat covers and the carpet, and I think we repainted the dash, or we did something to spruce up the inside, and I got a new steering wheel. The old one was really cool, but it started to it was made out of some kind of like plastic material, and it had started to degrade over time, and it was just chipping off. And so there was just like a metal piece that was kind of the support or the framework, and that was really all that was left in some places. So just went ahead and replaced that with like one of those I don't know what you would call it, but it kind of, I'm gonna say, a billet style racing steering wheel with like the silver cap in the middle for the horn, and then the three stems that came out to like a sort of like a rubberized black place where you put your hands, like the actual wheel itself. And it had like three holes in each of the stems, so it was high speed, low drag. But we redid the inside, and then the outside, there was a particular color that I really, really liked. I'd seen it on a Honda, I think Civic or Camry or something, but it was a silver color with like a very fine, almost pearlescent flake to it. And so we painted the entire outside that color, and that was after like a lot of body work and a lot of prep to get it ready. We redid the engine. We didn't lift the engine out. I don't think we did that, but we did tape off a bunch, and we painted the engine. I believe we painted it orange or red. I don't know if that was the right color, but that's not really what we were going for. I think we were just trying to make it look fast, go faster, right? Go faster paint. But we painted that all, and then we kind of reverse taped and then painted the inside of the engine compartment, blacked it out so that it would look nice. New tires. The wheels, I don't think I ever changed the wheels. I think I always just kept the hubcaps. I never did anything cool with the wheels. But yeah, so I drove that car for the rest of my high school career, and then actually still had it when I went off to the Navy. It sat in my parents' yard for, I don't know, however many years, until I ended up, I guess you could say I gave it to a friend. I actually sold it to him for, I think, like $1,000 or something, but he only ever gave me $0 for it. So, oh well, water under the bridge by now, right? I mean, it would have just rotted in my parents' yard. So it was good that at least, he got it and it got to live on for a little bit longer. And so I'm glad at that. I would have liked my $1,000 back then for sure. But I made it. I'm okay. I made it this far. without it. And wherever that guy is, I hope he's doing all right. You know. I forgot my point. Oh yeah. So point being, like, this guy kind of like took me in and gave me a job where who knows what kind of job I would have had. I had friends in high school that they worked for like the grocery store, which there's nothing wrong with working for the grocery store, but they were so miserable. Like, just, it's not like any of us really had to work, but our parents were all we were of the class that we basically weren't, we had all our needs met and then some, but for the bigger things, because you gotta kind of leave the nest or start doing your sort of training flights at some point, right? And case in point, imagine what I would, if my parents would have gotten me a brand new car or even a really nice used car, and imagine what would have happened if I did the same thing to that I did to the car that I bought. It would have been, I mean, it would have been pretty horrible for them and me too. Um, so I think, I don't know why did I go down this road. Anyways, back to the point. So we all worked to get like the extra things that we wanted, because back in the day, there was no streaming service per se. You bought CDs or records or whatever if you wanted to listen to music, or you would press record while the radio station was playing your song, and you would record your stuff on tape, and then that's how you would listen to stuff. That was kind of like the Napster of the day. The radio would stream your music, and you would try to record it on tape, cassette, during between or during the song, and not catch the commercials on there. So yeah, but the people that worked at the grocery stores were miserable. I ended up thinking that I was going to be super cool at one point and make way more money. So I went to work at a restaurant, like being a server, and it was fun. And I had fun with the people that I worked with, for sure. Like, same immature type behavior from me, and made good tips, and just caught up, had fun. That movie, Servers, is pretty much 100% accurate from my experience. Now, I just want to clarify, like, when I was a kid, I didn't, I never partook in drugs, and I never did things that I that could have made me, that could have trapped me in that town. I knew that at some point I wanted to leave, and I wanted to go see what the rest of the world had to offer. And so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be incarcerated or be locked in some way. I don't want to go into specifics, but I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. So I made sure that I was on my best behavior, except I did have, a goofy, wild streak, and we were always doing goofy stuff, pulling pranks and things. But being a server was great. But you know what? Actually, it bore me down to the point that I eventually just I left, because it was just too much for a kid. Um, Dealing with the public is never easy. And just when you're young too, I think it makes it that much harder, because you've got like so much different brain chemistry, and you're for a guy, your testosterone's so high, and you just um, yeah, it's just hard to to deal with people. People are rude sometimes, and it sucks not getting paid very much, or not getting tips or whatever, when you're kind of busting your butt to do a good job. And then restaurant industry, or not restaurant industry, but restaurant work is very, very hot and gross. Like, at the end of the night, you're covered and you're like sweaty and covered in like gross food and all kinds of crap, and you're slipping around on the floors in the back, and um, you want the day to be over, but it's not, because you have to close the store. So you have to pick up everything, clean everything, even the most annoying things, like make sure all the condiment, like ketchups, are full, or pepper and salt and all that stuff, and everything's stocked back the way it's supposed to be. The chairs are all up on the table, yada yada yada. So that was not anywhere as pleasant. You're dealing with the public, so I would have preferred just to be with Jay back in his shop doing body work and stuff like that. But I don't remember why I ended up making the transition, or if I was doing both at the same time, but one way or the other. But while I was working there with Jay, like I saw him help a lot of people with their stuff. Like, just he would not charge them what he could have charged them to do the type of job that he was doing for them. And he was just a good natured person. He worked a lot, he worked very hard, and I think he was on a shoestring a lot of the times, and just struggling to kind of make ends meet. But he always went out of his way. I really like Jay, and always, he was a good example. I always think of him fondly, remember him fondly. He's gone now. He passed away. But yeah, his whole family, sweet family. And that was just, the beginning of my life as a young adult. And then I think I'm grateful to have been exposed to somebody like that and have learned the skill set that he taught me. And so that's one way, that I've been influenced or helped by others. Another cool experience that I got from working with Jay is that he had, friends all around, because he was a nice guy, and for a subset of people, he was a pretty easy guy to get along with. But he had this friend, and I'll just call him H. But H knew my grandfather, because they were both interested. My grandfather used to make knives, and he had been making like folding knives and straight knives, hunting knives, bear jaw, different kind of handles, and he would use, I believe, carbon steel, and he had his own, process for. He had a garage full of tools with like old style industrial type belt sanders, um, drill press, all that jazz, and he would make knives. And I believe Harold. Oops, I said his name. I believe H. H was either into making knives or just really like my grandfather. They had met and hit it off, but H knew Jay, and and they were friends, and so H would always be around the shop, and he would come kick it. I don't think H ever worked on anything. He may have. I may just not remember it, but he would be up at the shop, from time to time, because that's just how people were back then. You would drop in and visit people, you know, and like talk story. That's what we say in Hawaii, but that just means like, stop and talk about things, shoot the breeze or whatever. But yeah, so H would come, and so getting to know H, he was kind of a personality. I think there was some substances maybe involved there, but that's allegedly. Um, by all accounts, at least from my observation, hell of a guy. I always liked him, and I always liked his family too. That's another family that was just really really nice. But yeah, so through H, I was able I had this interest, right? When I was a kid, my parents used to take me and my stepsister, and we would go down to Florida, Titusville, I think. Not Clearwater, Titusville, like the Banana River, New Smyrna Beach. We would go to this condominium, and I would always want to go surfing. And I think one year I finally found a surfboard. We didn't have Craigslist back then, but what we had was like a local trading paper. And I had found where somebody in Tennessee, of all places, had an old Quiet Flight Pro Comp surfboard, a QC, Pro Comp QC 5'8" board, right? And I didn't weigh anywhere near as much as I do now. I wasn't like a little fellow, but I was much, much smaller. Um, but yeah, so we went up to Tennessee and we got this surfboard, and I took it down to Florida, and it was all right. But it was old, and it had already, gotten dinged and water intrusion and discolored. And it just, as a kid, I wanted something cool and like awesome looking, but I didn't have a budget to spend, like $1,000 or whatever, 500, $1,000 on a longboard, which is what I really, really wanted. So what I ended up doing, and again, this was the early days of internet, but I found a website where I could order a foam, what do you call it? Like a foam blank. That's what they call the inside of a surfboard. So the foam blank with a stringer, which is the wooden part that kind of gives strength and support. It runs from the tip all the way down to the tail. So you could buy this piece of material off of this website, and I don't remember how I got them the money. I either mailed them a check or I may have mailed them cash. I don't remember, but I bought the thing and then I bought it online and then mailed the payment to them, I think. And the whole thing was very, like today you would think it was very weird, a transaction. But yeah, I mailed them the payment, and then, my blank came. And so I forgot to mention, H was a surfer and his brother was a surfer, and even though we were in Georgia, Northwest Georgia, they had in his brother's house, in H's brother's house, had a bunch of longboards like hanging on the wall. I always thought that was really cool, and I always wanted one. So I ordered my blank, and I forget how long the actual blank was. I think what I ended up with was like a 7 or 8 foot board. I've still got it. It's underneath my house right now, along with that Quiet Flight board. I never gave them away or discarded them. I made it a point to like carry them with me, and I'll show those too if I get a chance to put some pictures on this. But yeah, so I spent a summer at his place, and not like every day, but I spent a summer like going to his shop, his garage, not periodically, but sporadically throughout the summer. And sometimes it would be like during the day, sometimes it would be like into the afternoon, and we would work on shaping this blank that I bought. And H did most of the work of the shaping. I did some. He kind of guided me, and we did the all the fiberglass, and actually ended up, instead of using pigment in the resin, I think we ended up painting a layer. And I don't remember if resined on top of that, or what we did. I think what we did was we laid down glass and resin and then painted over the top of it. I could go look at the board right now and tell. But anyways, so I ended up with this kind of longboard thing, contraption, and I was pleased with it. I'd worked on it with H over the summer, and so I took it down to Florida and had a good time with it. But I mean, there and again, this is like a person that has absolutely nothing to gain, and like now that I'm older, I can just imagine like somebody asking, like a kid, just being like, "Hey, can you make me something? Spend your time with me for like a summer," like some strange kid. Spend your time with me for a summer and make something for me, basically for free. And how tired that would make me. And so I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but yeah, just that kind of thing. I gained some experience there. It's nothing that I've really used over and over and over again, but I just got to see like a side of, somebody being helpful when they didn't really necessarily have to or need to or whatever. But yep, these are the kind of cool people that I was exposed to as a kid, and I sort of lament, nowadays with all of the screens and the things that preoccupy our time. There's a lot of times I'm included in this where I'm on the computer so much day to day, like almost 100% of the time. And then I'll like log off occasionally, or I'll get up and I'll go outside, and then just, it's almost like I forgot that there's an outside, or, a lot of times I forget where I'm even at. And that the ocean is like a couple miles away, or that the sun is even outside sometimes. But yeah, I think there's so much that we're missing out on now because we're so distracted with things that aren't important. Like, it's not that things aren't important, but I just don't think that they should preoccupy as much of our time as they consume. It should be balanced with like actually getting out and associating and meeting other people and sharing experiences and learning things. There's something that happens there. There's a neuroplasticity that you don't exercise, or you don't gain functionality through just mindlessly typing into GPT or scrolling through a web page or a social media feed or something like that. But I'm not here to preach. Y'all didn't come for that. But yeah, those are just two examples of people that kind of helped me in those formative years, gave me something to do so that I wasn't doing the wrong things that I could have been doing. And kind of, it was like a glorified art project or something. I was learning how to fabricate and how to do things. My grandpa used to call it sticky to itness. So like these complex processes or things that you can't figure out, you just have to stick to it and stay with it until you do, and ask the questions and read the books and the manuals and figure out things. And that's kind of how you have to navigate life sometimes, because it hits you pretty sideways. And if you don't have that kind of approach, you'll be blindsided and just wondering what to do next. I'm going to try to change the view. I was going to try to slip in there, sneaky like, change it without you knowing. But yeah, so those are some some examples that I was kind of prolific and, a little bit long in the tooth over, but, two great people and fond memories for me. And of course, there were definitely others. Like my grandfather was really good with teaching me how to do things. I helped him work on his rental homes. He built a couple of rental homes on his property when he was in, I think, like his late 60s or maybe into the middle 70s. Like built these two homes on his property to rent to people. And he would always have to, do repairs and things. He was actually a good landlord and would do the right thing and repair things and keep things on the up and up. And I used to help him with that. I used to get volunteered actually into helping him do things, mowing the yard. These are not super difficult skills, but they're things like as a young person, you're not necessarily just going to jump on and know. So it was good. He also is the one that kind of like jump started my driving career because he was old in age when I was in my young teens, and he didn't want to drive and had cousins that lived up in the mountains, which was, kind of a rough drive anyway. And then like, especially during the winter when the roads would ice over or, you know, he would want me to drive for him. So, I mean, he's long gone now, so he's not going to get into any trouble. But I mean, I was driving, well before, we'll say I got my regular driver's license. I may have been driving before I got my learner's permit, but you know, he's the one that kind of taught me how to do that. So I never would have learned without him. And there's tons of other examples. There's teachers that helped and influenced me, and then also all through college. Of course, the Navy was a strong source of learning and learning resilience. I think and sticky to itness came into play for sure with the Navy because that was just an onslaught, what we would call a fire hose of information and not ideal situations, right? So I was only in for 5 years, but I mean, it was pretty much, nonstop. A lot of things to deal with, coming at you pretty fast. So yeah, that was a good learning experience. I look back fondly. Of course, I don't talk to many people now, I guess, from those past lives. It's funny how you go through seasons in life and, people just kind of, they fade into the background or not intentionally, but you just lose contact or or they stop talking to you and you never know why. But these things happen. That's part of growing up too and learning. But yeah, again, a lot of good mentors in the Navy, a lot of good friends. I'm trying to think like others. I've had bosses that kind of showed me a different perspective. I came from my childhood was very hard, and I've always come from a sort of a um, I don't know what you would call it. Like I think I've always had like high cortisol, high stress response, like definitely a flighty, knee jerky, assuming the worst. Because a lot of times in my early childhood, the worst was, sort of my reality. So I always had this when I was younger, like this sort of this projection or this idea that when you're the boss, you get to tell everybody what to do, or, you should be scared of your boss because they're kind of like the king and they rule over everyone, and you're definitely going to get yelled at, like kind of like Beverly Hills Cop, like the chief or something in Beverly Hills Cop or something like that. That's how I viewed leadership. And I have had, good leaders that have shown me, the real way to actually lead and work with people. And it's definitely not that. Being more focused on the problem at hand and not on being punitive. Um, Believe it or not, for me at least, um, that was not intuitive. That's something that I had to acquire through watching others' examples or just having them you know tell me that, teach me that. But yeah, so there's plenty of examples of okage sama desu, of times where I could say that to other people. I don't think I would have achieved anything without the help of others. Let's see. So I have like a list of things that I was going to talk about, but I think I've been doing this for, I don't even know how long, for almost an hour. We can go maybe a couple minutes. So yeah, so like this year has been one of those where I've needed some good things to look back on, and some sticky to itness, because I started on my own this year, like working on my own, doing my own digital marketing stuff. And so like this year is a great example. I had some clients, and some of them were people that I knew that I'd worked with in the past, and some of them were people that I never knew. They were, either referred to me or um, contacted me, and then we just got to know each other, and I began, doing projects for them. But those people actually helped me through this year, and I appreciate them. It got kind of it, things slowed down towards the end of the year, but it's understandable because I think a lot of people are worried about the future now, and of course the economy is not doing so well. And so, but I mean, the year started off great, and it was a good transition from where what I was doing. I was working at a marketing agency, and it was kind of, I I won't say it was a nightmare. It wasn't that bad. I was working remotely, but I mean, if there were a group of, I, yeah, I don't want, I don't want to say too much, but it just wasn't the type of teamwork or support system. I guess I don't really look for a support system per se in work, but I was just kind of accustomed to more of working together, and it was just a siloed experience, like a very lonely and kind of punitive. It was just no direction, and then on the tail end, like getting negative feedback, and it's just there was no direction and to begin with. But yeah, so not really a nightmare, but just kind of like a difficult situation, a difficult work life. And even though it was remote, it kind of like went into, I was only getting paid for like a certain amount of hours, and then I would always have to work way, way more than what I was actually putting on the books in order to accomplish the things that needed to be done. Because there was always details that were left out. And yeah, I don't want to go too far into it, but it was a bad experience. And so it was so nice to have that weight lifted off of my shoulders a bit, and kind of get to experience what it was like to work directly with clients and have that line of communication, and not it's not been easy, right? Because you have to solve problems for people. That's what they're paying you to do. But to be able to communicate and get to a solution, identify root causes or identify a goal, and be not unanimous. Unanimous is not a good word, but like be unified in that. Yeah, that's our goal. That's what we're moving towards. And if we need to change later, we will. But yeah, that kind of that kind of work work life has been good, and hopefully it'll continue. Right now it's been pretty slow, so I'm actually looking for different things that I can do to sort of fill in the gaps. So again, if you do need digital marketing or a website, especially if you are a small business, especially if you're local to Hawaii, I mean, of course I can help you if you're anywhere nationwide. The internet's a very cool thing. I've got tools like Zoom and Loom and Figma and Reloom, and um, we can definitely collaborate long distance. But I do like helping local Hawaii businesses. Um, but yeah, if you're a medical, health, wellness, dental, fitness, any kind of service, you need booking solutions, contact forms, or a way to manage your CRM, your newsletter signups, lead nurturing, stuff like that. SEO, give me a shout. Tako Mojo, TAKOMOJO.com. That's my digital marketing. I also have where I'm sitting right now, Tako Mojo Studios. It's something that I put together because I thought that there would be a need for my digital marketing clients at some point to do videos, whether they're talking about their products and services or, um, doing promos or whatever, some type of video recording, audio recording, visual, um, editing services, things like that. So I actually do have another site, takomojostudios.media. And if you're local in Hawaii, especially on the east side, Kau or Hilo, Pahoa, that's where I'm at. So I'm local, and you can book studio sessions for audio, visual, and then I'll also do your editing for you too, if that's what you want. But yeah, so you can find me at takomojostudios.media or takomojo.com. Also, if you need bee stuff, you can go to hulahoneyhive.com, and you can find beehives there. And then I actually have honey for sale right now, but only for a limited time. I usually don't harvest honey, but that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, so back to the point. This year or last year was uh, the whole thing was just an example of how other people in the community kind of supported me, even though it was just it was kind of like a work relationship, and they got help from me, and then I got their money, but we helped each other, and so to them I would say okage-sama desu, and I had to make sure that I looked at it so that I was saying the right thing, and didn't totally embarrass myself. So sorry, I had to scroll up and make sure I was saying the right thing. But yeah, so I can't just do this on my own. Uh, it's just like this video. I don't know who's gonna watch this video. It might not be interesting to anybody, but if you are watching, then okage-sama desu, because you're helping me to learn. So I'm sure you'll probably comment or like or uh, say something one way or the other, uh, and that'll help me grow and do things differently or better or whatever. But yeah, so I didn't accomplish all of my goals. I had planned on kind of like ending the year a lot better than I actually did. The end of the year was pretty somber for me. And we'll just say I'm looking forward to hopefully a better one in 2026. There's a lot of crazy things in the news right now, and a lot of crazy things happening in the world. To be honest, I can't remember a time in my life where that's ever not been the case. Now it does seem a lot more crazy than I've remembered it ever being, but that may just be a matter of just being exposed to more news more frequently. I don't know, but either way, the things that are happening now are bad. I just want to be clear. I don't like any of it. Whether we're talking about the presence of ICE or the presence of National Guard in Chicago, and I think they tried to put them into Seattle, or did put them into Seattle or Portland. I don't think that's yeah, that's I won't say unprecedented, but I I I would have never thought in a million years that it would ever come to that kind of thing. But yeah, I just want to be clear that, as far from my perspective, that's pretty terrible, and that's pretty depressing for me, to see. Uh, even if people are aliens in the sense of, they're here in the country, but they're not citizens or residents. Even if people are that, then I think, maybe I'm a bleeding heart, or maybe I'm just stupid, or whatever, but I think they're still people, and they still deserve some to be treated with some kind of respect. Everybody's not a criminal, and certainly, most of the people that I've met, I've lived in Chicago, and it was there were areas of Chicago that have always been dangerous. Like, even when I was a kid growing up in North Chicago, the locate not the direction, not like North Chicago proper, but like the actual city of North Chicago, which is very bad, crime wise, and rundown. But or it was. I don't know what the status of it is now, but when I was growing up, it was bad. Um, I've lived in these communities where, it was kind of very, I guess, poor class, a lot of crime. Uh, but there's always been good people that I've met there, that have shown me what, I guess, normalcy looks like, or you know, kind-heartedness, or caring for others. And everybody's not evil, and just because you're from another place, I don't think you're evil, and I don't think that people deserve to be treated like what they're being treated like. So I'll get off of my soapbox on that, but yeah. So the point being, like, all of these attacks, that are happening around the world, literally, I don't necessarily agree with all of that, or I don't agree that that's the best thing that we could be doing right now, when there's so many things at home that we should be focused on, and um, that we should be solving problems, that we should be solving. It seems like we're creating more issues around the world than we're actually helping, solve, even things that we need to do for ourselves, like self-serving things. Yeah, and so that's all I'll say about that for now. But it's just really frustrating to see these things happening, and that combined with just not really a great, um, fourth quarter. I'm hoping that going into the new year, things will get better, not just for me, but for everybody, and maybe there'll be some type of change of heart, or something. I've seen signs. I've seen, little glints of promise. I've seen, some people speaking, and speaking out in a way that is poignant, and that resonates. And so I'm hopeful. I think these people always exist. It's just a lot of times they're overshadowed, or overcast by all the noise, and the worst actors, are the worst ones, are always are making the most noise. So they always get all the attention. But I think there's, more, there's genuine, more genuine, kind and caring people there. I just have been so many places around the nation and around the world, and met different different people, and have experienced some animosity, but for the most part, what I've run into is just kindness. Like even in the worst of circumstances, even when, I was kind of in not in the wrong, but kind of the odd man out, in being in those places. I've still had people that sort of like ushered me through and kind of looked after me in those places. So yeah, I don't think the world runs without all of us kind of getting along together. And so that's my hope for 2026 is that finally, I know people say this every year, but I hope that maybe this will be the one where it kind of catches on, because I think a lot of people are kind of, if you're actually watching, you're actually paying attention, then you're probably pretty shook over what's happening now, especially. But yeah, so that's all I'll say for this time. I've been going for about an hour and 11 minutes, but I'm bear with me. I'm just getting started on this, so I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'll be trying to do these as often as I can. I do have, if you want to go to there, I have a Patreon. I don't know what the actual handle is, but I believe it's under ARunninThought.com. I'm going to start posting more stuff to that too as I'm coming out with these videos. And don't be mad at me if I actually don't get some of the photos onto this. I may have to upload this video first and then go back and do some editing. I'm really kind of like back and forth between like looking for jobs and reaching out to potential clients and like trying to do this video and a bunch of different things happening all at once. So let me see. I will tell you. Actually, I guess since I'm going to put this on YouTube, I will just put a link to the Patreon in the comments. But if you look for A Runnin Thought, I'll be there on Patreon. And I don't even know if I have a paid tier, but I'm going to set one up. I'm not promising that it's going to be like crazy good. But if you do want to support at all, that would be a great place to do it. And so, yep, that's it for now. Happy New Year's. I'll see you soon.